we are good to go.
So thanks everyone for joining. Obviously we have an online event for you today, so I don't know if you know or whether we've kind of formally announced this, but we're trying to do a good mix of in-person and remote events, because we know a lot of people that tune in to these events can't necessarily get to Manchester logistically and attend in person, so it's a nice way to kind of reach as many people as possible. So hopefully you'll find that beneficial. So we've got a really great event for you today, but just quickly before we start, obviously it looks like there's a couple of names that I've not seen before. So just on the screen there is the various places that you can find us on social media. So we do kind of post between meetups about the next one, or if we're ever looking for speakers, or you know, if we know of any junior roles. So it's well worth following us on those social platforms. Thanks, Chris. So a little bit of a code of conduct, and this kind of applies equally to online events as well. So a bit of housekeeping: if you can remain on mute, which I think everyone has done since they've joined, just so there's no background noise when the presentations are going ahead. However, cameras aren't good, you know, it's quite nice sometimes to see people's faces, know that there are people there listening, but likewise, completely up to you. I appreciate you might have a chaotic background or stuff on the go, so whatever's best or most comfortable for you. We always try and make this a safe space. So what we mean by that is hopefully it's somewhere that you feel safe, you can ask questions, you feel kind of involved in the dialogue. It is a free event, obviously when it's online, but also when it's in person, it's always free. Everyone is welcome, whether you're in testing, getting into testing, you know, been out of testing for a few years, wanting to get back into it. This event is literally for anyone that's kind of interested in test at any level, really. Obviously more so catered to people that are new to test and juniors. Please be respectful to others, so you might not necessarily agree with everyone's opinion or opinion on best technical tool, for example, but obviously just be respectful in the way that you go about communicating with the other members. If there's anything that you've not been happy with, obviously feel free to report it to myself, Ken, or Chris. And if you do break any of the rules, we will ban you from future events. We haven't had to do that yet though, so hopefully that will stay. So we've got two speakers today, as I say, so I'll give you a bit of an intro into the first speaker, we'll have a break, and then we'll do an intro into the second speaker. So first speaker today is Chris. For those of you who don't know, Chris is my kind of co-host or co-organizer for QABC. So he's not only the speaker tonight, but he actually helps to run the whole event. So a little bit of background on him: he is a tester currently, as you would probably assume. Came from a kind of, I suppose, non-technical, non-degree background. So obviously you can kind of relate to a lot of the routes that you might be coming in from. And as well as getting involved with QABC, he's involved in Ministry of Test Manchester as well, which is another really great event to check out. Mostly in person though, so probably better to look at if you are actually local to the Northwest. So I will hand over to Chris. One other thing to note is questions. Great, we would love to have some questions. If you can put them in the chat whilst he's doing his talk, or we'll just let you kind of come off mic at the end of the talk if you've got questions. So whatever you feel most comfortable with. But I will hand over to you, Chris.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Gabby, for that introduction. So to just jump straight into things, so I'm going to be doing a demonstration. Hopefully I'll really do a bit of a workshop as well. I will post in the links as I go along. So what I probably advise to do is, rather than just kind of watch me do things, is actually kind of follow along as I'm going along. So as I'm doing it as well. So you can kind of do it as well. So you're kind of learning at the same time rather than just watch me do it. Again, if you got any questions, put them in the chat, or again, wait at the end so we can keep things free flowing. Again, I will help you guide through this and also show you what to do as well. So what am I showing you today is Selenium IDE, a beginner's guide. Selenium IDE is a browser automation tool. This can be found along in Chrome, Edge, and Firefox. Several little topics I'm going to go through today is how to set it up, recording your first test, doing your first playback, and also designing your own little test suite. So first of all, is how to set it up. As mentioned, you can find this on Google Chrome. You can find it in Firefox, Mozilla, and also on Microsoft Edge. Oops. Okay, it's not going to let me copy and paste. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you primarily how to find it on Google, but you can also, through the very much same technique, is on Firefox and Edge. So if you go to, on Firefox, I believe it's add-ons, and you'll find it that way. If you're on Microsoft Edge, if you go for Edge extensions, then you go to kind of their homepage and they'll be on there as well. Just going to admit someone in. However, again, Chrome being probably the most popular browser, I'm going to go via this route. So I want Chrome extensions. So I find extension, should put me straight there. Perfect. So I was going to give it a minute. So if you are following, please do so. I will pause for a few moments while you catch up, and then I'll carry on. Okay, so I'm on the store. So I'm going to look for Selenium. Let another person in. Selenium IDE. I've not spelled Selenium right, but it'll find me anyway. So here we are. This is what you need to find. So obviously I've already kind of got it enabled on Chrome. So but you probably had add to browser, or it might be worded a little bit differently. So if you want to then add, oh, how rude. I want to enable it. No, they haven't. Well, that's interesting. Since yesterday, have they disabled Selenium IDE on Chrome? Oh no. Add to Chrome, add extension. I got really, really worried then. I was lucky. Okay, so pretend that didn't happen for a few seconds. However, if you did see that happen, good, because I know but this should. I know there's an option to enable it. This shouldn't be popping up. I've not changed anything. I don't know why. So if I do click onto that, there we go. So we're back in business. Thankfully for that. So you should have this pop up. I'm going to give you a quick second. Just hopefully you're going to catch up. Okay, so we want to create a new test in a new project. So if you click onto that, we want to name the project. So I'm just going to name this QABC, and this is one I made earlier, QAC demo. So just for this purpose, I'm going to use just Google, just a simple one to use, and start recording. So down the bottom right-hand side, we can see Selenium IDE is now recording. I'm just going to maximize my window. So I want to click into here, so this gets recorded. So as you saw, the bottom right side, recorded click, so it has recording in action. So what the good thing about Selenium IDE is a point and click. You don't need to initially really write any code. That's if when you build a bit more confidence and that's the route you want to go down, that's fine. But to kind of, this is what I use to kind of build my confidence up with it. So I'm just going to go meetup, click. And yep, so I've got meetup here. So there's my meetup. I'm going to click on that, click recorded, and there we go. So I want to stop recording because that's what I just want to do for my test for now. So I'm going to stop. So I want to name my test. So I'm going to do find meetup via Google. And there you go. That quick and easy is how you can record your first little test. Good thing again I mentioned is it's a nice simple point and click system. As you can see, it's that target command there will open a new tab for me. It also sets the window size when I opened it up. Click Q and type Q. So you can see it put in meet. So I wanted to put up meetup. Then it's done the click. Let someone else in. And then it's then also done the CSS, which is some it's as last month is the CSS what's written in the back of the code and inspect that you might see. Okay, so I've written my test, I've point and clicked it, it's recorded. Now, do I make sure that it's worked properly? So I'm just going to move this off to one side. Move you over there. I'm going to close you. I'm going to close you as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this little play button here, which says run current test. Move you back over there. And I click on that. Meet. And there we go. It's probably running a little bit slowly because I'm screen sharing, which avoids is a bit of a trait. But as you can see, the test has passed. It's done exactly what I did. Excuse me. As you can see here, tick, 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 tick. It's done exactly what I intended it to do. It's followed all the steps and the test has been successful, which is absolutely perfect because that is what we wanted to do. So again, say if I wanted to type in something different, so I put in meetup. So if I run test again, oh then right, meetup properly, there we go. Go on, click. I think Selenium has crashed again. Oh. Okay, see what Selenium is up to. Okay, well, this is actually quite a good thing because I have changed the output of the type. It's now trying to find what I clicked on previously, but because the outcome is different, it's not going to find it. But thankfully, in this instance, it actually did because it's quite clever. And it's again, test has passed, which is job good. So I'm going to pause there. So has anybody had a chance to do that as I've been going along and it's worked successfully? Or are people struggling? You can come off mute briefly if you want to ask a quick question before I move on. Or put a thumbs up if everything is okay. Or put in okay in the chat so I know. I take it, yep. Thank you, guest. Brilliant, cool. As long as you're fine. Excellent, sweet. So I'm going to close that down. So we're going to do a bit more of a little fancy test. So I'm going to delete that. Yeah, I want to leave because I want to start afresh. So I want to get a different website. I want to go to here. Open up Selenium again. I want to pin you there so it appears here all the time. So again, I want to create a new test. So project name, QABC demo, because I didn't save it last time, I can reuse it again. My base URL. So this time we're going to do a bit more of a more real life one. So we're going to do a little bit of an upload. So this is a website where you can upload images to print on a t-shirt. So I'm going to start recording. So what I'll do is, where has my chat gone? So as your base URL, if you want to put that in, so you can follow my steps, I shall wait a moment. Let's give you a few seconds. Cool, someone else wants to come in. They've missed all the fun. Okay. So currently Selenium IDE is recording. Hopefully it's not me clicked on accepting the person in. So I want to create my own t-shirt. So I'm going to go design now. Okay, so on their website, I've got a blank t-shirt, but I want to put an image onto that t-shirt. So add image. Then obviously your file explorer by default will open. So I know which test image I want. I'm going to go here. I love this design. So open. And there we go. So that's the test I want to do. So I'm going to stop Selenium right there. So this is street shirts test. Okay, so what I can probably do is I can get rid of these mouse overs. So what mouse over means in the command lines is that I've hovered over something on here like that. So this will pop up. So you can keep them if you want, unless you've clicked something within that item is irrelevant. So I'm just going to tidy up my little test because I know I don't need these. So get rid of that, and that. So again, I've opened Windows set, so set window size. You can change this if you like. So all you need to do is click on in the target and change that to a different screen resolution, but I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. So click on the t-shirt design, click, which is the image, and the type. Now this gets a little complicated. It took me a little bit of time to figure out how to do this. So the ID equals photo. So what that is now doing is my target is to go and get a photo, and the value, now Selenium will do this. This is where you need a bit of manual intervention, which I will show you what to do. It's fake path, but it has captured the title and the type of file, which is absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do is properly put in the command. So you go to value. So I'm just going to overwrite this. So the value I've put in, well, it's got a bit at the end that it doesn't need to be there. Get rid of that. So you need to put the full file path of what you need. So C drive, so he uses my drive, it's on my desktop. And then this is where the path, this is what your backslashes are. It tells you the path of where it needs to go, which is all the way there. Now, looking at it, that should be JPEG, not JGP. So to double check this, open your file, Explorer. When it decides to load, here we go. So just to double check the file and its type, I'm going to go right click, properties. Okay, yes, you can do it as a JPEG or JPG. That's fine. I'll double check. Okay, so I now want to test that this runs properly. So again, I'm just going to move you over there. I'm going to close you down. And I'm going to press my little play button. Oh no. Okie dokie. Failed code. I know why. And again, this is technically intended. So you go to Selenium. Again, this is an obstacle I had to overcome. Go manage extension. Now you need to click this little bad boy here. Allow access to file URLs. Turn that on. And Selenium will close, unfortunately, because it's doing its own refresh. So I'm going to open Selenium back up. I'll get rid of you. I'll get rid of you. Drag you over. Again, project QABC demo. Base URL should be there. No, it's not. That's fine. I've got it on a notepad. Again, start recording. So I want to design now. Upload image. Oh, the builder. There we go. That's exactly what I want. So I'm going to stop my record. And I'll call this street shirts test, which is fine. And again, I'm going to put my original test file back into there. Yep, that looks good to me. So I'm going to close this down. Again, check them out. My test has worked properly. I'm going to click on the play button so you can see what's happening. Play. Just thinking about it. Ooh. Okay. So what I love about doing live demos, you practice and you practice and you practice, and it doesn't work. So we're going to find out why you don't work. Yep, type upload. Yep, I know why. Because I missed. There should be a backslash right there. So I'm going to press play again. Okay, all ticked. And there we go. Uploaded successfully. Let's go. So you can go, yes, so I know that test is going to work successfully. However, obviously, probably with this website, they've got different file types you can and can't upload. So I want to create that test, which is fine, but I'm going to rename it test JPEG. So this way you can start creating your test suites. So I want that part of the test suite. I'm going to rename that file type upload. That is not how you spell file. So what I can do is I can actually copy this. Excuse me. So I'm going to let me. So I can do that. I can duplicate. I'm going to rename. So I want to do a PNG file. PNG. So what I'm going to do is obviously I can reuse these ones. Don't need to rewrite them again. But I want to know that a PNG can be uploaded. So I'll need to go into my file explorer. Let's go test images. File type, where are you? File PNG. That's PNG. Let's go QABC. Okay, so I need to put .png at the end of it, and it's just called image3. So copy that. So in Selenium, if I go to there, so all I need to change is just that end bit, image3.png, because that's the file type. And I'm going to press play. This should work. Close that down. There we go. So I've now added another one to my test suite. So I can now gradually build those up. So say they should be able to load an SVG. So you just have a test SVG image, change that bit on the end of your path, and that'll upload as well. So if you want to do a quick multiple test using automation to detect all the image types that are valid will be uploaded correctly, you can do it that way. And again, if they've got a set of image files that are excluded, which are probably like MP3, MP4, probably a text probably won't be right, which is TXT type of file, you can put those in, and if they fail to upload, which is what you want to see, then the test will pass because they have failed to uploaded. Yes, that's correct. But again, if you write a successful test, but that test fails, even though the file is correct, something's wrong, then you can then report and go, automation test is failing, try it manually. If it is failing, then you found the bug, but you found it really quickly because you've used automation. So that is me absolutely bang on time. I hope you found that informative. And if people would like to come off mute and ask me any questions, and there are some in the chat. Can you schedule these tests? Not in Selenium IDE, as far as I know. This is a bit more, it's quite a very basic automation tool. Again, to get me started in getting comfortable, more comfortable with automation, this was so good to use. I've progressively moved on to Cypress, where it's a bit more manual typing and you actually got to write the code itself. But again, this is a really, really good starting point. And again, it's point to click and it's really easy to set up. And again, there are tweaks you have to make. But it's been scheduled. No, not as far as I know. That'll probably be maybe more back-end related. So there was another question before yours. Despite a little bit of answer, but can you loop for different file types? Yeah, okay, I've answered your question. Yeah, that's where you kind of build up the test suite. Where is it here? So what you can do is you can run all tests. So if I click that, it'll do one. Yeah, it closed really quickly because I've got it on full speed. I'm quite happy, but it's done the other. Yep, there you go. So it did both of them, and you saw how quick it was. Can the test be triggered by a script? How do you mean? Do you just come off mute for a second, or you just want to type a bit more to that question? If you're asking script more like in the back end, maybe you probably have to speak to a developer that one, because what you could do is not by a command, no. Is with this one again, Selenium's quite basic, so you would just literally open up, go to file and click the play button. That's, yeah, sorry, I think I misunderstood as well. And to save them, click on the little flash, it keeps on flashing up here, save projects, yeah, then save them wherever you want. So demo file. So you can save it as this one, a side file. I can't remember the acronym for this, I'm really sorry. But this is kind of for Selenium IDE, how it writes. I think you can change them over. No. I know with some, with Cypress, you can export it as a JavaScript file and another file, can't remember. But this one is specifically as a side file. And these ones they're quite not that heavy. So you can send them via email or in Slack if you have it to get them shared. So next one, Lucy Ball, sorry. Does this kind of test have to be run on the same device because of the C drive path? Yes, it does, because it's C drive. I've not quite figured out yet how to, if I want to get it from a Google Drive, because again, that's kind of in browser. But then I suppose you then have a physical path on your Google Drive. That's a bit more complex. I've not tried that one yet. But yeah, if you've got that C./users, yeah, that's specifically for your C drive, for your actual drive. If it's shared, you might be able to change it to D or an E. If you've got that device path there, then yes, you could probably get away with that. Don't see why not. But again, trial and error, give it a go. Again, I'm just using that C drive, just the formality of the basic of running a good to go Selenium IDE tutorial. Are there any more questions? Please ask away. I will ask the best I can. I can't promise I have the answer, but I will do my best. If not, we'll take a 2-minute break to get a quick drink and the toilet if you need it. Yes. What I'm going to do is, I think, sorry, was someone going to speak then? Sorry.
No, it was just me.
Oh, okay.
I think just saying, yeah, 2-minute break.
That's fine. What I'm going to do is, before I go, and so I don't forget, I'm going to post some nice little get started links to Selenium and some good Q&As if you're unsure of anything. So I'm posting them into the chat now. So I probably recommend to save them and have a good reading material as well. So yeah, I hope you followed those okay. If anybody was following, how did you find that? Was that okay? And did you have a little bit of fun with it? If not, that's fine. or was I going too fast?
I don't think you were going too fast.
Why, thank you, Gabby.
I suppose what's probably quite useful as well is the fact that this is recorded. So obviously, you know, if you're completely new to things and it felt like it was quite a lot to follow, the whole point is you can now watch it back on the YouTube.
Yeah.
And, you know, follow along kind of at your own pace. But hopefully the feedback seems to be really positive in the chat for a good kind of introduction.
Yeah, I said, I think with, I think it was Nicola, we had, I think it was last time or the time before. Yes, she mentioned that she used Selenium IDE to get the ball rolling with her automation as well.
Yeah.
It's this nice simple point and click. It's easy enough to manipulate, don't know if it's the right word, the values and targets and commands. The most ones you'll probably use is, oops, get rid of that, is open / which is your target, which bit goes off this. Set your window size, that's easy to change as well. So if you want to see what's on like a mobile view, you can just copy this like I did and change this target and even set up a test with that. Clicking, they'll normally just stay the same because you want those to remain as they are, unless a path changes, which sometimes you have a number in there. So if the number changes, you go in and have to change that number as well. And the type is so much like you might type in. The reason why this is a type, and this is where I got confused, is because you are literally typing the path for the image to go and get fetched, if that makes sense. Again, it's all trial and error, and hopefully I've done all the trialing and erroring, so I'm here to show you how to make a start. Cool, I've waffled on. 3 minutes break, and then we'll come back, and then I think Mark has joined the call, and I'm going to hand over to him because I'm really looking forward to his talk. This is going to be absolutely amazing.
Fab. So if we reconvene at 10 past.
Perfect. Cool. I'll put our fancy little thing back on. Maybe I won't. Yeah, that's all the stuff I went through. Cool. Break time. I'll see you all in a little bit.
Hello.
Voila, look at that. Cool.
Good timing. Right.
Hiya.
Hi. Is that who was that then? Was that Mark?
Keiko.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Right. I will let you do the intro, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Mark, you are there now. I can see you, so hopefully you're ready to go.
I assume you can hear me.
Yes.
Hola.
Cool.
Cool. So welcome back, everybody. I'm going to now hand over to Mark. Obviously, quick introduction. He co-founder of the software testing clinic and the ops boss at Ministry of Testing. And I know I'll probably wait for him, but again, just want to say a big thank you to Mark for joining us today. It's an absolute privilege for you to be here, so thank you very much. Are you going to be sharing your own slides? I think I might need to.
I am, and oh boy, are these professional looking slides.
You've not seen mine then, yeah. Standards have been lowered. You're all good.
Nothing quite like sharing your story by putting an embarrassing photo of yourself as the front page.
Well, I mean, I'm quite jealous of the hair, so.
It's not real. No, it's not real.
Cool. I'll hand over and enjoy everyone.
Cool. So, hello everyone. It's nice to be here. I always love talking testing and stuff. One thing I always like to do just before I kick off anything online, I'd love to hear like where everyone is dialing in from. Let us know where you're calling from, because it's just, I think it's one of those crazy things where meetups have become sort of weirdly global by accident. So yes, exactly. There we go. We've got Chester and then Sacramento. Fantastic. So myself, I live in Norwich, well, just outside of Norwich, 20 minutes in the car outside of Norwich. I live in the middle of nowhere, and I have terrible Wi-Fi. So it's an ulterior motive to say if I disappear, it's probably something to do with that. So I apologize now. Oh, lots of people from Manchester. Hopefully, maybe see you at Test Bash UK in the future. So yeah. I'm actually born in Leicester, but I defected to Norwich very early on as a child. Cool. All right. So yes, I'm here to sort of, I've lost my cursor. It's gone. Cool. I'm here to talk a little bit about myself, which is always good. But yeah, here to share a little bit about kind of my background, and hopefully use that as an opportunity to share some experiences, some observations that I've had in the past, and also maybe some tips and stuff like that. So yes, just to kick this all off, when anyone ever asks me like, how did you get into testing, my go-to line is, I was supposed to be a rock star. So before I started testing, my background was in music. And I was in a band. I got played on Radio 1. Admittedly, it was Steve Lamacq at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was only played once. And we sold 10 singles nationally. So it was never really meant to be. But yeah, that's kind of where I started. But where I am now. So yes, I should probably introduce myself properly. My name is Mark. I've been testing for 15 years, although I find myself testing less and less, which is sad, but I do have this wonderful opportunity, this wonderful job where I am the ops boss at Ministry of Testing. So I work at Ministry of Testing. I'm responsible for making sure everything kind of runs on time, and that we get all these events set up that we do, and all of the online stuff. I'll talk a little bit more about Ministry of Testing a little bit later, but I still see myself as a tester. I still work in the testing space, and I also teach as well. So I teach testing. Chris mentioned software testing clinic. Sadly, don't do that as often as I used to, but I teach fundamentals of testing, but also I do quite a lot in the automation space as well. So those are kind of my two links. So yeah, before I get into all of this, before I sort of talk about some of my experiences, I feel it's important to highlight that I am aware of the fact that what I'm about to share to you is rooted in some privilege. I am a straight white male guy, and with a beard and glasses. You practically can printers when it comes to the sort of software development industry. So what I want to say is that the experiences I'm going to share, they're mine. The advice that I'm going to give, I'm trying to keep it to stuff that we have control over and advice that is useful. But I am aware of the fact that I'm coming from a position that is, you know, as I say, like I've got life on easy mode, which is why I chose the old classic Wolfenstein logo. Anyway, so yeah, that caveat aside, let's talk a little bit about how I fell into testing. So yeah, my first job, as I said, I wanted to be a rock star, but more seriously, I actually wanted to be a composer. I wanted to compose music for video games. And I saw all the Borderlands images, Chris. Malawan man, always a siren. But yes, I wanted to write music for games, and I'd heard like the way to get into the games industry was through testing. But you see all these jobs out there that are kind of junior tester, pays rubbish, must have 3 years experience. So 0-hour contract, 3 years experience, junior tester. And it just, I really struggled to find any sort of work in that space. And it wasn't until I actually weirdly found a job as a junior tester testing music notation. So what happened was my first role was basically drawing on my experiences as a musician. So I studied music at university, so I could read music to an advanced degree at that point, probably less so these days. And what they wanted was someone who was kind of comfortable with computers, like could talk a little bit about technical stuff, but really they wanted someone that had more of that understanding of music notation. Unfortunately, I tinkered with computers, I built things enough. I say built things, I'd worked with software, music software enough that I got the job. And so, yes, for my first year as a tester, I worked testing this music software. I even wrote, so there's a book out there called, I think it's 80 stories from 80 testers. There was a few of these different books that came out, but I shared a story about how I fell in love with testing in this job and how I found my first ever bug. And I was super excited. And then I was fortunate enough to be paid to go on the ISTQB course. And you hear a lot of back and forth about ISTQB. Personally, I'm not a fan of it these days, but I found at that point it was really valuable because it gave me the words, it gave me the understanding of what was actually going on around me. So yeah, that was kind of my first job for that first year. So some takeaways from this that I can sort of give as advice is that I think the previous experience is really valuable. Having experience in a certain domain is as equally as valuable as having like technical knowledge or knowledge of how software development works. I've spoken to people in the past who are looking to get into the industry, and I've always suggested, well, where do you work? So I spoke to someone once who worked in the pharmaceutical industry. So I was like, well, why not consider looking at roles in the pharmaceutical industry? Because you've already got a leg up. You've already got some relevant experience, so that when you go into those sort of roles and not necessarily know the testing side of things, you understand what the industry is, how users interact with it, what sort of domain, what do these words mean, stuff. So that is a really powerful way to consider. You know, we all might want to, like I wanted to be a games tester, but I didn't have any games testing experience. And you know, there's always the classic thing, well, I play video games, but it's a very different beast. So yeah, previous experience can help. Also, don't be afraid to say, I don't know as well. I think that people can tell in interviews as well when someone's blagging something, and by relying on your own domain experience and saying, I understand how this industry works, I understand how this domain works, I just don't know the testing part, but I'm eager to learn, I'm hungry, I'm interested in this space. And that's what I say, show that you're willing to learn as well. And this might be by sort of demonstrating testing you've done elsewhere. So you've tested some open source projects or something like that. And then finally, when you have that first role, enjoy that first bug you find, because they're never quite as satisfying after that. But yeah, it's a wonderful experience when you hear someone say, nice find. So yeah. And then I got fired. I got fired a year in. I basically did a fairly good job. I got a pay rise, and for some reason that pay rise put me on a hit list of redundancies, and I was let go. which sucked. It's 1 year into the industry and something like that happens. It certainly framed things in my mind in terms of relationships with with employers. And I think, we see a lot of that sort of being discussed nowadays in terms of, this big drive for people to sort of find what it is that works for them rather than just taking any old job on. And that was hard. That was not fun, because here I was sort of 1 year in, kind of enjoying testing, kind of still wanted to be a rock star and making hard choices. And beyond that, I then took another job as a consultant, a junior consultant. And immediately there was red flags. So at the time, I used to have quite long hair. So wanted to be a rock star, long hair. And as part of the interview, I was told I could get the job on the proviso that I had to cut my hair. So I compromised and went from there to there. I was like, I'm not cutting it all off, not yet anyway. But that was a red flag. And then as soon as I arrived on my first day of the job, and I realized this just wasn't for me. And unfortunately, again, 2 weeks later, I got fired again. And this time I got fired because I took a personal day and due to some bereavement in my family, and they saw that as something that I basically didn't follow the proper technicalities or something like that. The client wasn't happy that I left in a rush and stuff, so I was let go again. So yeah, I was kind of left drifting a little bit. And I think that's it, is sometimes we talk about sort of coming into this industry and it's all going to be smelling roses and lovely and shiny. But I think that there is an awareness we need to have, is that this is an industry like others. Sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes you have to move on. But some key learnings from this I found is, I think, trusting your gut as well. As soon as that haircut thing should have come in, I was so worried about, making sure that I found a job. I should have maybe taken the time to sort of find something else. And know your worth. I was only a junior at that time, but 1 year's experience is 1 year's experience. There's a lot of hours learning about testing. So be confident and share that journey and share that knowledge that you have and stuff. And don't, try not to let people sort of kind of diminish it. I said 15 years experience, but really, what does it mean? Keep one eye on the market as well. I literally picked the first thing I could find and I applied for it. I should have spent a little bit more time shopping around. And this is why getting to know recruiters and building those relationships is really useful as well, because it's a two-way street. We can help each other. Also take time to upskill yourself. One thing I didn't really do was, I was so focused in my first year as a tester, just kind of learning the ropes and stuff. I didn't really take it to the next point. So I started seeing things like Selenium appearing on the scene and stuff, and experience around automation. And I was like, I don't know any of these things. And I think if I'd have taken a little time, it would have made my life easier. And then finally, not every role is the one, which kind of leads me on to my next job. So I did manage to find something, which was testing social care systems. Fun story for those of you who kind of live in the UK. There was a big old scandal about 15 years ago related to this child called Baby P. And there was a big old sort of kind of investigation about things that needed to change, and some of the things needed to change on this social care system, and they gave me all those changes to test. I'd been there for 2 weeks. Fantastic. Anyway, ultimately it was not the job for me. A few years afterwards, I ran into a developer who turned into a tester, and he's like, I remember you working at this place, you looked miserable all the time. And I pretty much was. But whilst it wasn't necessarily what I saw myself in, I was very fortunate to find a manager and a mentor who believed in me. A man called Fuad, who's kind of no longer in the testing world now, which is a shame, but he really sort of took me under his wing, and he saw that I was developing an interest into sort of automation as well. And we had quite a few sort of conversations about sort of working in that space. I showed him some of the code that I was creating. And really sort of, I was basically developing these little projects. We didn't have any timesheet systems, and we had to track our time. So I built a little timesheet system. And I think that's an interesting point to make in the slide for automation. Doesn't always have to be about automated checks, driving browsers and pressing buttons and stuff like that, building little tools, little scripts to help ourselves is equally valuable and equally transferable. So yeah, I managed to find this mentor who gave me the space to develop, who actually sort of kind of built me up again to sort of believe in myself as a tester. And it was there I decided that this was something I was going to start taking seriously. I'm aware I'm talking quite abstract about sort of the roles and working in testing and stuff. Please do ask me any questions later on if you want kind of specifics of testing and stuff. So the social care stuff was very web-based. The music notation stuff was very desktop-based, and each had their own challenges and stuff. But some advice, find people who will advocate for you and support you. Now, this may be, I was lucky that I found this mentor at work, but not everyone's as fortunate to have those opportunities. But this is where community comes in. So, as I said, I work for Ministry of Testing, and Ministry of Testing is all about community. We want to create these spaces where people can make connections with others in the industry and learn from one another. And there's lots of people out there in the community who genuinely want to help others and be there as a kind of support. If you want to automate, take time to work on small projects first. Sometimes, excuse me. So sometimes when working in automation, we tend to talk about it in this sort of context of you must know Selenium, you must know Cypress, you must know C#, Java, JavaScript. You need to know all these libraries and stuff like that. And that can be quite overwhelming to begin with. And whilst there's some great resources out there around automation, personally, I found those small projects are the best place to start. Literally, the first thing I built was my band's website, and I just did it in HTML and CSS and just had some flat pages. And it's about building up from that, because learning to code is like one aspect of automation, but being able to solve problems, I think, is equally as important. And also share with others your successes and your desires and stuff. You know, if you share what your hopes are for yourself as a role with people in your team, it might not necessarily translate straight away, but it will certainly encourage or make people aware of the fact that it's like, oh, hey, you know, blah over there is actually interested in automation. We need some automation work done. That sort of thing kind of can happen. And also those projects that you're working on, share them with people, show them to others. I recently saw a talk about the power of habits up at a meetup in Edinburgh. And one of the comments about that was this idea of sort of sharing it, you know, getting that feedback, getting that buzz from it. And then, so I moved on from that role, and then I started working for a digital agency. And that was very different, because rather than these big long form projects and stuff, I was literally working on projects that would be half a day long. So you'd literally get a website, got to test it, and that's it. And I think that's important is that different domains have different lengths of projects, different contexts, have different ways of approaching stuff. But one thing I was exposed to was, because we had these small projects and sometimes we had more and sometimes we had less, I met a lot of contractors. And they would take me out for lunch, and then they would basically whisper in my ear, you could be a contractor too. So this is where I was starting to build real confidence in myself as a tester and start to build that up. And contracting's kind of changed now compared to where it was 10 years ago. Crikey, 10 years ago. But I found it quite appealing, mainly from a financial perspective. Let's not beat around the bush. But also I liked the idea of the freedom to choose what sort of projects I worked on. And I think this was rooted in those sort of early experiences of, I don't necessarily, like, I would rather pick and choose when I'm working and where, rather than have someone else to decide for me. So there was a decision to make about moving into contracting as well. And this is where, again, the sort of automation sort of space went in. And what was really interesting was that, as I said, I had a music degree, and I thought, all I've got is music degrees. No one's going to hire me as a contractor, because, you know, they want people who know, they know code, they know software development, they know testing. So I actually started to take a conversion course. So like a software development conversion course. The idea was I'd do it part-time for 2 years, and then I'd have a software development computer science degree or something like that. And then I could go contracting. And I spent about 6 months on it. And I asked for my money back in the end, because what I realized was, and not all computer science courses are like this, but what I found was what I was learning wasn't necessarily relevant. The experiences that I had was what made me a good tester. The things that I was sort of kind of learning myself, the relevant things to the problems that I was trying to solve at work, were useful. So in the end, I took the plunge, handed in my resignation. I had 3 months savings, and I went out and started contracting. And I was very lucky that early on I found a contract and started moving actually more into this software development, engineering, test sort of kind of roles, much more automation focused. So not a lot of the actual sort of kind of what's viewed as sort of manual testing, but I like to sort of think of as like exploratory testing or heuristic driven testing. It was more this sort of automation space. So takeaways from this, experience, I think, trumps qualifications when contracting. The more opportunities you get to test, and the varied opportunities you get to test, can really sort of build your experience up. And I think that that is usually more valuable than qualifications. And it's kind of goes against a little bit with what we do at Ministry of Testing, because we've got all these courses and stuff. But they can be useful as reference material and to get you started, but nothing beats just doing some testing. I find speaking to others to learn about opportunities is really useful. Again, relationships with recruiters. I went on a paintballing evening. I don't like paintballing. I wear glasses. I can't see straight. I had to take them off. I had to put my hands up at one point and all the paintballs went down my back. It was very embarrassing. But I made some friends there. I got to know some recruiters, and ultimately, we were able to work together. But I find, yes, again, this is about community. You're going to see this come through more and more about these experiences, talking with other people, getting to know what they're working on, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. It's really useful. And then another thing, and this was sort of kind of brewing under the surface by this point, was I was becoming quite frustrated actually with testing as well. I felt like I wasn't testing well enough. I felt like I was hitting this sort of barrier with my testing. And I didn't think it was to do with the fact that it was like, yeah, I've nailed testing. I've done 5 years of testing. Pew, pew, I am the testing master. It was more, I felt my own abilities, my own skills weren't quite there. And a thing that I learned from Evil Tester, or Alan Richardson, is he talks about like how testing is our own responsibility. And that's freeing, but also scary as well. And as we'll learn in a minute, it's if you take responsibility, you can choose what sort of testing you do, but you have to justify it, and you have to take responsibility of your own sort of experiences and your own training as well. And contracting is a nice space for that, because typically, you're kind of a bit more of your master of your own destiny. There we go. So yeah, as I said, I did a few years contracting. The old BBC homepage, not the new one that's just come out recently in like the last few years, but the old one, that was me. And I started working sort of in publishing sort of companies and stuff like that. But I was growing more and more frustrated. I was very much pigeonholed into automation roles, automating test cases, really doing automation wrong. Which is why I always love images like this. If every problem, if all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, or something to that sort of extent. The law of instruments. And I was very firmly in this place. So it's a classic thing of kind of you can run away from like a place where you can't run away from yourself. My own skills as a tester was starting to be hampered. And by this point, I was doing some crazy coding stuff. I was trying to build a video game at this point as well. And I was building all these sort of kind of cool projects and really getting into sort of coding and programming and automation. But it's just, I wasn't satisfied. The testing I wasn't doing wasn't very good. And what I realized was sort of about a few months into a new contract, I realized that I kind of forgotten testing. And this is something I think is very important when we talk about automation in our industry, is that automation is seen as the be all, that's the great thing to sort of kind of strive for. But I feel good, strong testing skills, good, strong analytical skills, critical thinking, lateral thinking, those are what drive successes with automation. It's not your ability to code, it's your ability to understand your testing context and use that understanding to pick the right sort of automation. So I kind of went a little bit back to basics. An analogy, roughly around this time as well, I was, so as you can see, got guitars and stuff. I'd been playing guitar for about 15, 20 years at that point, and I wanted to get better. And I went back to a guitar teacher, and the guitar teacher was sort of like, well, what do you want to do, Mark? And I was like, oh, I want to be able to play faster. I want to do like more lead stuff and just get better at improv. And they were like, well, let's see you play. And they played, and he went, right, Mark, you're holding the neck wrong. 15 years I've been holding the neck wrong. And he showed me a different position, and immediately my ability improved. It was the same thing with testing as well. So I took the opportunity, and again, this is not necessarily something everyone can get involved with. I took rapid software testing, and that gave me a new perspective of testing that really sort of meant that I could kind of open my testing. So RST was fantastic, but like I say, it's just, I started investing in my testing skills again. I stopped focusing on the coding, started thinking about testing. So yeah, it's easy to get in a rut with testing. And this is one of the dangers of I do find with sometimes with qualifications like ISTQBs, the kind of attitude a little bit sometimes is, this is the way. And that is the way, excuse me, sometimes, but there are other ways as well. And what makes a good tester is being able to choose what's the right things to decide. Yeah, beware the law of instruments. I came in all like, pew, pew, I know how to use, I'm doing that a lot, pew, pew, don't know why. But I know Selenium, I know Cucumber, I'm going to Selenium and Cucumber this problem. And it just didn't work sometimes. And especially as well as sometimes I was coming in and going, Selenium and Cucumber, and they're like, yeah, we've already got that implemented. And it's like, oh, what do I do with myself as well? So diversifying yourself in terms of what your abilities are is important. And then crucially as well, I think another misstep I took was I started getting a bit defensive. I started going, well, you know, we need to overhaul our automation strategy. You know, we're using the wrong tools. We need to use these tools. When really what I should have been saying is, I need help. I feel like I'm stuck in a rut. I feel like I need some support. I need some guidance. And I was very lucky again to meet someone kind of who was going to take over my role. And she sort of kind of directed me to the testing community. And that's where I feel like things really changed for myself. And I discovered things like the RST training, but also at that same point, I discovered Ministry of Testing. And that kind of comes to the final point, which is like looking for things outside of your comfort zone. There's a really good talk by Cassandra Leung, which again is on the Ministry of Testing site. And I swear to God, I'm not, just trying to market Ministry of Testing all day. But there is a really good talk where she talks about getting outside of your comfort zone, and not necessarily putting yourself in harm's way, but focusing on trying something that you're like, I'm not sure how this works. So whether that's attending a new event or trying out a new technique, something that feels a little uncomfortable, you'd be surprised what you might learn from it as well. And that kind of comes in hand with OK for Help. Cool. So yeah, I'm kind of riding a little roughshod now over sort of kind of the last 6-7 years, because I feel like, as I said, the more my career progressed, the less testing I was doing. And what I found was that once I'd sort of taken these courses and developed as a tester and really started to get an expansive view of testing, it was there that I started really connecting with the community. And it's awesome that, like, the fact that you're all here today is amazing. Like, I wish I'd started my career like that. Because making those connections with people, networking, learning from one another is really useful. And actually what I found at this time as well was that I started to develop confidence in terms of sharing what I knew. So almost as a bit of a dare to myself, I said to someone one night after a few drinks, I was like, oh, I'll do a workshop at your event. And this is what I say, taking yourself out of your comfort zone. I'd never really done public speaking. I hadn't played in a band for about 8 years by that point. So it was very, very nerve-wracking. But what I found was after I'd run that workshop, which was on API testing, which I still kind of do a lot in that sort of space, I found it to be so rewarding. I found it really, really valuable, not just from a perspective of, you know, having people there and showing them what to do, but it kind of gave me another layer of learning. So to be comfortable in sharing information about, about API testing, I had to kind of learn it more. I had to have to learn it more deeply. And then also I had to work out a way to kind of communicate this understanding, which I think is a difficult skill to master. So yeah, from there, I started developing courses, started sharing more. I started working with Ministry of Testing kind of as a sort of on the side. And before long, I found myself in this position where I was actually helping people build courses. And it's kind of there that this is where I sort of come to now, which is that I'm in this position where I'm trying to help people in the community at the start of their career, looking to get that first role or to sort of establish their understanding of testing, but also helping those people who are 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, who are looking for the next thing, because their experiences, their knowledge is valuable. And by sharing that with the community, sharing that across the industry, I think it makes us all better testers, and it makes us better at our jobs as well. So yeah, I'm totally biased. I literally work for a company that is all about community, but I do genuinely believe the best way to learn is with a community. Having a learning body, having a mentor, just sharing and being vulnerable as well, which is really scary, but it can be really rewarding. Attending events like this, meetups, conferences, all sorts of things. It's not just the talks and the workshops that you learn from, it's from the conversations with people as well. So yeah, don't be afraid to share what you've learned with others, and don't be afraid to share when you're having problems and you're having challenges as well, because it's very likely someone has some similar experiences that they can empathize with and help you as well. And then finally as well, I think an important thing is when, like for some of you, if you're just starting out in testing, it might feel like quite a weird thing to sort of think about, like, well, does this lead? Like, well, where am I going to be 10 years, 20 years down the line? And I think this is an important thing to share, is that there are other opportunities. One of the best things about testing, I think, is because you get to do all sorts of crazy stuff. And that means that you get to try out other things. I've seen testers who become BAs. I've seen testers who become engineering managers, directors, COOs, CEOs. It's that sort of underlying foundation, I think, that can be really valuable. So there are other opportunities, and like things like training, sharing your information, sharing what you've learned, creating blogs, that sort of thing. So yeah, I didn't expect any of this. And this is all a like massive ego kick for me right now. But yeah, I fell into testing. Everyone fell into testing. It's very rare that you meet someone who says, I deliberately chose testing. I've met testers who were musicians like myself, bioengineers, Navy, like Navy engineers and Royal Marines. I've seen people who fixed phone lines. You know, it's a lot of people working from like support, first line, second line support, bar staff who just fancied a change and gave it a punt. But that's what I love about testing, is because it is diverse and there's all these experiences coming in. So how can you fall into it? First of all, total plug, join Ministry of Testing. Pew, pew, last pew, pew, pew. But join Ministry of Testing, or find that community, find your local community, find your people that you can work with and learn from one another, because it's just so much better when you're doing it together. So yeah, find local meetups and networks. You're already doing it, you're already here. Keep coming to these events, keep going to other events as well. You know, just take advantage of the fact that there's so much free stuff that people are kindly offering to help. Practice the testing craft as well. So Chris was showing that website. I missed the start, so I don't know where that website came from, but I've tried to create like free websites for people to use to practice testing against, so that people have an opportunity to just try out doing some testing. There's a lot of discussion at the moment about creating portfolios. So showing your testing work, these are my testing notes, these are the bugs that I found, these are the sites that I tested, that stuff can be really useful. And then finally, as well, just to conclude, have fun. Testing should never be boring. It should be exciting, it should be engaging. And if it's not, that's okay, but maybe there's something telling you there that something needs to change. There's some sort of evolution required. And that took me a long time to learn that. Cool. I hope I haven't overrun. I got kind of 2 slides in, 3 slides in, and then got really anxious that I was like completely blasting through my time. But I hope that was useful. Nice one. Fantastic. Well, I hope that was useful. And yeah, I'm willing to take any questions.
We have one. Is your band website still up?
It's my band. I kind of want to go and have a look, actually. I think if it was on the Wayback Machine, yes, but no more. I had to turn it off. I'm sorry, I'm terrible for telling stories and anecdotes, but I had to turn it off because my band was called Army of One because I was 19 and I'd been dumped by a girl. And oh, that's 19, even younger than that, actually, like 16, 17. Anyway, we called Army of One, but then a rap band or rap metal band, I can't quite remember, or a hip hop band appeared in Baghdad during the Iraq War, and they were called Army of One. And then I started getting all these weird emails from like US Marines going, your music got me through like my tours. And I was a bit sort of, what, songs about ex-girlfriends got you? It was, yeah. And then I discovered this. So I shut it all down because it was all getting confusing and we weren't playing anymore. Sadly, we crashed and burned. So no, the website is not still up, but you can probably find details and stuff.
You missed the trick there. You could say, "Oh, it works on my local."
Yeah, I wish I even had the code. I don't know. It's probably backed up on a DVD somewhere. That's or CD. That's why we're talking about. Yeah.
Next question we have is: can the ISTQB help get? I'll read that again and put the false teeth back in. Can the ISTQB help in getting into testing after a gap of 7 years?
So I think like the short answer would be potentially yes. I'm careful of what I'm saying here and stuff, in that it's a very useful device as a foot through the door. So you know, having some sort of certified qualification does, you know, it makes you a legitimate tester, right? So I have ISTQB, or ISEB Foundation and ISTQB Intermediate. So I've done 2, and you know, it is useful when it's on the CV because it helps pick it up. And yes, like I say, it's a good foot in the door, and it's very useful for maybe perhaps getting you those interviews. The crucial thing is, does it make you a better tester? That's what I'm not quite so convinced. If you're saying like, you know, you've had a gap of 7 years, I assume you have some experience of testing already. So what I find is that what I would find is that that experience is probably more valuable and more, I'm going to say the word legitimate. I think that's probably not the right word. It's maybe a little bit baity, but it's real. It's real. You know, it's experience that you've had that you can transfer. Personally, I find with the ISTQB stuff, it is very focused on a very specific path, which I said is useful in some contexts, but a lot of times it's not. So yeah, the long and short is, I think it is valuable. It's useful for getting your foot in the door, getting those interviews, having those conversations. But I think that, again, back to what I was saying before, practicing testing, building a portfolio of testing, you know, showing, let's say, show test cases that you've written, show mind maps that you've created, show like recordings of bugs and stuff. If you're going to do some of the like automation stuff, Chris has just shown you how to do IDE, do a little project in IDE and record some videos and show that. I find a portfolio that actually demonstrates your testing is more valuable than whether or not you are certified.
Feel free to copy what I did today on Selenium IDE. That's what it was there for. Go for it.
Yeah, we won't tell anyone.
Who?
Exactly.
Are there any more questions? If you want to come off mute, that is absolutely fine to do. This is the perfect opportunity, or if you don't feel that comfortable, that's fine. Yeah, put it on the chat.
Cool. Well, yeah, I hope it was useful. Like I say, if there's anything I was going to plug, check out ministryoftesting.com. We try to do cool things. And we have a free conference coming up in June.
Oh, nice.
Yes, Test Bash World.
Ooh. Cool. And also QABC is really good as well.
Yes, very good as well.
Excellent. If there are no more questions, then I'd like to say a massive thank you to Mark for joining us this evening and sharing his progression from getting his foot in the door with testing and where he's progressed it up to the present day. And obviously, I'd like to thank myself for presenting. I don't know how that one works, but yes, I hope. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll do clap to me. I don't know. Yeah, I hope you all find that Selenium IDE session very useful. Again, as Gabby mentioned before, this is going to go up on YouTube. Again, I'll put all the links that I shared before in this chat, which I probably recommend quickly saving now. If not, I'll put them on the meetup group and also on the YouTube channel when it's set up, so you can revisit it and find all the information there. So without further ado, thank you again to Mark. So you can hear that, there we go. And thank you everybody who was attending this evening. Again, hope you all found that useful. And our next session is going to be an in-house session only. It's not going to be live streamed because we've had too many difficulties with that, and it's just getting too much to handle. So if you are in the Manchester area or north of England, and we'll be in the city centre of Manchester, literally 5 minutes walk from Piccadilly train station, a co-computer lover. There is event space where we normally, before pre-pandemic, where we were before. So those details of events are going to go up on Meetup soon. There's going to be an agile workshop game like we used to do, which is going to be amazing. So yeah, please watch this space and attend if you can. So again, thank you very much to Mark. Thank you very much to me. Thank you very much to Gabby for hosting skills. I know she's offline at the moment. And there we are, Gabby. Thank you very much. And have a brilliant weekend, and we'll see all you again soon. Thank you very much. Stop recording.